Fox Sports.
We are the Fourth. We are the Lions.
The Indians travel to the friendly confines of Wrigley Field for one game, where the improved Cubs have made things very tough on the opposition. Youth will be on full display as Francisco Lindor makes his first career start for the Tribe. The Cubbies boast two of the National League's best young stars in slugger Chris Bryant and second baseman Addison Russell. Trevor Bauer will try to keep the youth from going wild next on Sports Time Ohio. From Chicago, Illinois, only this time we greet you from the north side of town. Wrigley Field, home of the Cubs, where they've been playing baseball. This is their 100th season at this historic ballpark. Only Fenway in Boston is older than this National League iconic park. Hi again, everyone. Matt Underwood alongside Rick Manning. Well, we're not going to talk about relics. We're going to talk about youth being served because Francisco Lindor makes his debut tonight for the Tribe. And we got to look back in spring training at some of these great young Cubs players.
Yes, we have. And Francisco Lindor going to get his first start this year. We saw him get his first major league hit the other day in his second at-bat. He's going to hit second in the lineup today. An opportunity for Indians fans to see this young man shine at shortstop, we hope. And on the other side, Chris Bryant is off to a terrific start this year for the Cubs. They wanted him to start the year out. He did not. He's on an 11-game hitting streak. He also had a 12-game hitting streak earlier this year. Bryant, 23 years old. He was the number 2 overall pick. Francisco Lindor, he's the 8th overall pick back in 2011. So a couple of good young players getting after it.
All right, just one game after last night's game was rained out. It'll be made up here on August the 24th. We're back with tonight's play-by-play between the Indians and the Chicago Cubs right after this. Cleveland Indians baseball is brought to you by WB Mason, the official office supplier of the Cleveland Indians. By McDonald's, I'm loving it. By your local Toyota dealers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. And by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk, proud sponsors of the Cleveland Indians. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio. Well, it's a cool evening here at Wrigley Field. Last night it was warm, it was humid, and it rained like biblical proportions.
It certainly did.
But boy, what a difference 24 hours makes. You see the guys have got the hoodies, the sweatshirts. A little chilly. That wind's coming right out of the northeast. It'll be breezy here, winds blowing in, so that should be a benefit to the pitchers. Let's take a look at the Indians starting lineup tonight, brought to you by Progressive Insurance. For Terry Francona, it'll be Jason Kipnis in the leadoff spot, followed by Francisco Lindor, who gets his first start. Michael Brantley will bat third. Then it's Carlos Santana, Brandon Moss, Yan Gomes, Michael Bourne, Giovanni Urshela, and Trevor Bauer will pitch and bat ninth.
Our Northern Ohio Honda dealer starting pitcher is going to be Jake Arrieta, making his 13th start this year, his 7th start at home. He has a 2.88 ERA in his 6 home starts. He's pitched much better here than he has on the road. 6-4 in his career. He has faced the Indians 3 times, 3 starts. He's 1-0. Last time he faced them, it was June 29th, 2012 at Camden Yards. He had a no decision. He gave up 5 runs on 8 hits, and he worked just 3 2/3 innings. So no stranger to the Indians.
And so we are ready to go. Jason Kipnis said he'd been waiting a lifetime to play at this ballpark. He gets his first opportunity here tonight, leading off. And takes a strike at the knees on the outside corner. Kipnis begins the day 3rd in the American League in batting average. Fouls that pitch off. 2nd in hits only to Prince Fielder of the Rangers. Joe Madden, in his first year at the helm here in Chicago, has the Cubs 7 games off the pace in the NL Central. Kipnis, big hop to second baseman Addison Russell, who throws him out, 1 away.
Let's check out the Cubs defense, which is brought to you by Chrysler. In the outfield, it's going to be Coghlan in left, Fowler in center, Denorfia in right, Bryant at third, Castro at short, Russell is at second, Rizzo at first, Montero doing the catching.
Phil Cuzzi to call the balls and strikes. Crew chief Jerry Davis at first, Tony Randazzo at second, Will Little down at third. Michael Brantley, or rather Francisco Lindor batting in front of Michael Brantley. 1 for 2 in his major league debut Sunday in Detroit. Came on as a pinch hitter in the DH role. Lindor pops it foul, and that'll find the seats. Lindor's taken a lot of good-natured ribbing over his first big league hit that resulted in a tumble around first base. And Terry Francona said, any guy tells you he's not nervous, there's your proof right there.
Yeah.
Because his legs were going faster than his body could go.
No question.
Takes in off the plate.
But that's the exciting part about it. He wanted, you want to do so well, you just he couldn't keep up with his legs. Something had to give way.
Arrieta's pitch fouled out of play by Lindor. Indians and Cubs have split 14 games over the years. Hard to believe this is only the 6th game that Cleveland has played here at Wrigley Field. They played a 2-game series. I want to say it might have been in '97 in the first year of interleague play here, and then didn't come back until '09.
Right. That was the first time I've ever been in here, was 2009.
To center field, Dexter Fowler will make the catch. 2 down. Let's go down to Andre Knott. Francisco Lindor in the 2 spot in the lineup. Why did Terry Francona say he made the change with Santana?
Terry Francona felt like with Francisco Lindor starting his career here in this National League Park, batting 8th may be harder than batting 2nd with the pitcher behind you. He wants to make this as easy as he possibly can for Lindor as he starts off. Also with Santana, he says, look, maybe he's more comfortable in the 4 hole. He wants to get him going, but he's not married, guys, to either one of these players hitting 2 and 4 as we go along.
Well, I know it's going to be easier for Lindor when you're hitting between Kipnis and Brantley. That ought to be a lot of fun.
Michael Brantley hitting .301 on the year. Just had his hitting streak snapped Sunday in Detroit. And a strike called. It's 2-1.
I remember a little bit of Jake Arrieta when he was with Baltimore, but I don't remember him throwing in the mid-90s when he was with the O's. So far, he's got a pretty good fastball in the mid-90s, a slider. I think it's a little changeup, and I thought he had a curveball as well.
That fastball again at 95 miles an hour, just off the mark. And it's 3-1 with Carlos Santana waiting on deck. Not once has he had a consecutive hitless games since August of last year.
Well, I was thinking about that because you asked me, what was it, Sunday? What is today? Yeah, Sunday when we were in Detroit. What do you think about Chicago? I said it'll be his first at bat to get that hit and get it over with.
Fouled off the off-speed pitch. He was out in front, but got a piece of it. Stays alive at 3-2. 2 down here in the first. And he missed down and in for ball 4. So the Indians have a 2-out base runner. As we take a look at the window systems, game time temperature.
It's chilly.
64 degrees, and it's expected to get down into the 50s before this game is over tonight. Blowing straight in from center field. Two down for Carlos Santana. Santana just 1 out of 12 on this brief trip. The one hit he had against the Tigers was a home run. Down and in, throw at first, but Brantley's back standing. Miguel Montero came up and got rid of it in a hurry.
Montero, a guy that they acquired in the offseason, coming from the Diamondbacks.
And Brantley, who has 7 steals, yet to be caught. Santana pops this one back out of play. 2 balls and a strike with 2 down. And that's over the outside corner to even it up.
Take a peek at this on our Nissan pitch tracker. That's going to be a fastball down and away right on the outside edge. Good location.
Pulls it foul, and it's over near the Indians bullpen. Both bullpens are in play.
They sure are.
There's not a lot of foul territory in this ballpark. Maybe there might not be one that has less.
You could be right.
That's outside, full count.
Well, this, and you go back to Fenway Park, you know, which is one that doesn't have a whole lot either. The 2 old ballparks.
Tell you one thing, where it's nice is for the fans. They are literally right on the field in this park. Runner goes, and the 3-2 pitch is low, ball 4. So Santana taking a page from the Cubs manual, because Chicago is the most patient team in the National League, averaging 4 pitches per plate appearance. So 2 on 2 out for Brandon Moss as we take a look at the keys to the game, brought to you by Wayside Furniture. Now to get to the starter early, and we'll see how Trevor Bauer matches up against the Cubs' young guns.
Yeah, the Cubs, their bullpen has been pitching very well over the last 3 weeks. They have 8 guys down in that bullpen. But I mean, that's pretty much every game. Let's get to the starter early. We certainly try to.
And Brandon Moss looks at a ball down low. Walks to Brantley and Santana with 2 outs here in the first. And Brandon Moss has a chance to do some damage now. 11 homers, 35 driven in on the year. And a foul back off the mask of Montero. Moss having a terrific June, swinging the bat. Halfway through the month of June. And another foul right back.
Take a look at this pitch. It's either a cutter right there or a slider. That was thrown pretty hard. 91. I'm guessing that's a cutter.
Moss down on the count, 1-2. And he strikes out to end the inning. No runs, no hits, 2 men left. The Cubs will come to bat when we come back. The Cubs starting lineup for Joe Madden is brought to you by Toyota. Dexter Fowler, switch hitter, leads it off. Then Anthony Rizzo, Chris Bryant, Miguel Montero, Starlin Castro, Chris Coughlin, Chris Denorfia. The pitcher Jake Arrieta bats 8th. That is not a misprint. Addison Russell at second base will hit 9th.
And our Northern Ohio Honda dealer starting pitchers, Trevor Bauer, making his 13th start this year, and it'll be his first career start against the Chicago Cubs. He's made a couple of interleague starts this year. One against the Cardinals, that was very good. 7 1/3, 4 hits, 1 run. He had a no decision. And one against the Reds, 7 2/3, 5 hits, 1 run. It was a win.
Dexter Fowler. Two balls and a strike. Fowler just 1 for his last 13. And a foul right back, full count. He had been on a pretty good tear. He had a 7-game hitting streak, but has fallen off since then. Tied for 5th in the National League. He scored 42 runs, and when he gets on and scores, the Cubs usually win. They're 22-10 when he scores at least 1 run. The payoff pitch hit hard to first. Santana got a nice hop, and he'll take it himself, 1 away.
Let's check the Indians defense for you, which is brought to you by Chrysler. It'll be Brantley in left, Bourne in center, Moss over and right. Urshela at third, Lindor at short. Kipnis is at second. Santana is at first, with Gomes doing the catching. Trevor Bauer 2-1 in his 7 starts in interleague play, an ICRA.
There's Anthony Rizzo, and he shoots one deep foul down the right side. He jumped on that pitch from Trevor Bauer out in front of it. 11 home runs, 37 driven in for Rizzo.
Yeah, good young player for the Cubs. Also has 10 stolen bases. Gets out of that open stance straight up, and just all of a sudden he whips it. He gets it through there.
Bauer gets ahead of him, 1-2. Rizzo is the ringleader for the Chicago team. He leads the club in hits, RBI, doubles, homers, walks. Not to mention he already has 10 stolen bases. Not bad for a big first baseman.
That's right.
Another full count. Bauer's payoff pitch. He walked him. Now Kia in the driver's seat features Trevor Bauer, who has done a terrific job of keeping the opposition off the scoreboard when he's on the road.
Yeah, that's a nice job. You know, he went a long time on the road before he got his first road win, if you remember. But boy, he has turned that one around.
Chris Bryant with a foul ball down the left side.
You can see just a 1.32 ERA on the road this year, 3-1. And why that disparity between home and road, it's hard to believe.
you know, it would be that much of a difference.
Oh, nice off-speed pitch there by Bauer. And Bryant in the hole 0-2.
You know, it was a changeup from Bauer here. You're going to see him out front. So, good pitch. You know, I was watching Rizzo over there, and it's like he's got a 3-foot lead. And I'm thinking to myself, he has 10 stolen bases. Watch his lead. You got to stop him. You see, he tries to.
It's going to get out of play on the right side. I wonder how many of those stolen bases might be in a double steal situation.
I don't know, but you know, you watch a guy. You know, once you get to 10 stolen bases,
that's pretty good.
People are going to start paying attention to you because you know we're only 60 games in, or 62, whatever it may be. But you know, when you start getting to double digits, teams start paying attention to you a little bit more, treat you like a base stealer. But I was looking at his lead, and I'm going, "You kidding me?"
He doesn't have the look of a guy that's going to take off anytime soon. Chris Bryant.
You know, sometimes it may be just, you know, people fall asleep.
Yeah.
You know, and not pay attention to him, and then he'll take off.
Maybe that's part of his game plan. He stands over there like he's not going anywhere. You forget about him, and he takes off.
Well, I'm going to keep my eye on him, so I'm going to let you know. It looks like he likes, if anything, to get a walking lead because he's not. He has a terrible lead for anybody.
That bounced a good 4 feet in front of the plate. Nice stop by Gomes.
That happens. It seems like every start with Bauer where he'll bounce one out in front of home plate or a couple of them. But watch where this ball hits. That's that curveball going down way out in front of the plate. Gomes a nice job to take it off the protector and keep it in front of him.
The 1-2. Swung at it. Same pitch that bounced in front of the plate.
There you go. He's got him.
And now they got the runner hung up. Rizzo. Santana gives it up. Lindor. Did he tag him out? Yeah, he got him. And the inning is over. So Wild strike him out, throw him, run him down out, double play to end the first. Take a look at the play that ended the inning. Another breaking ball in the dirt. And I don't know what exactly Rizzo was looking at or what he was thinking on that. Maybe he saw it in the dirt and thought it was going to bounce away from him.
Well, if you do, then you got to take off immediately and you don't hesitate. But he hesitated and stopped, and it wouldn't have mattered. Gomes had him no matter which way he went.
And Gomes leads off the second for Cleveland. He was on a pretty good offensive burst when the Indians left home, but struggled through a 1-for-10 performance in the Tigers series.
Well, he's been getting after that low pitch. He's been much more comfortable in that batter's box.
Pop foul out of play, right side. Even with that 1-for-10, he's batted .289 over his last 10 games. Couple of doubles, couple of homers, 4 driven in. And he's out looking.
Yep. Little cutter.
One away here in the second. In tonight's game, we are participating in the Home Run Challenge. Every Indians home run in this game will raise $12,000 toward prostate cancer research. You can make a pledge by going online to homerunchallenge.org. Michael Bourne takes a cold strike. Bourne 2 for 7 against the Tigers. When he's batted in the 7-hole, he's hit .370. Down on the count, of ball and 2 strikes.
I was thinking back to that Detroit series. It wasn't a good offensive series. They were shut out the one night on a couple of hits. They didn't score till the 9th on the final game. You know, so offensively, their numbers are not going to be very good. They had the 5 runs in the one game, and they got the win.
Full count for Bourne. Giovanni Urshela waits on deck. Jake Arrieta with the payoff pitch, and Bourne slaps it foul again.
Well, they finally have the right field bleachers open now. That was the last to open about a week ago or thereabouts.
3-2 fouled away. Renovations to Wrigley Field, new bleachers, new video boards.
Yes. Yeah, the other one was the old scoreboard right out in straightaway center, but I like the look.
Bourne waves at the pitch, and that's 3 straight strikeouts for Arrieta.
Well, it wasn't a good swing by Michael. There's the slider on the outside part of the plate. Wasn't expecting that after a couple of fastballs.
Giovanni Urshela. Swung on and missed. Fastball 95. Right over the outside part of the plate. And the 1-2. Urshela drives it up the middle. Knocked down by Castro. Spins, throws, and on one hop. Urshela retired to end the inning. Tribe goes 1-2-3. No score, middle of the second. Now back on March 10th, the Indians took on the Cubs in Goodyear. And Trevor Bauer was on the hill, and 3 straight home runs. The last one was hit by Chris Bryant, an opposite field shot. It was launched.
Yeah, that was our first look at some of the young players. And the next day after the game, if you remember, Terry Francona, they had a police officer come into the clubhouse with the 3 baseballs. And
said they had a traffic disturbance the day before, right. And he went over and handed the balls to Bauer.
Yeah.
Popped up, shallow left. Lindor calls everybody off. Makes the catch just inside the chalk. 1 away. Time now for our stat of the game, brought to you by Buick. And look at all these prospects that are in the majors. From the top 10, you get almost everybody there.
I'll tell you what, up until the ones just called up, Buxton that was just called up with the Twins, and of course Francisco, all the other guys are playing pretty well.
It was interesting, Byron Buxton, his manager is Doug Minkiewicz, who we watched play for years
at first base
with Minnesota.
Yeah.
And Minkiewicz said, you know, he was quoted in a Ken Rosenthal story saying, I don't think he's completely ready. And he said, you know, I want to make sure that a guy's developed to the point where when he goes, he stays. He's not on that back and forth shuttle. And that pitch is low and away.
Now, sometimes it's hard to tell. You know, there may be people that don't feel like a certain guy's ready, and boy, something kicks when they get to the big leagues. Like the paychecks, the meal money, and the ballparks you play in, the travel and everything else.
Starlin Castro takes a look, and it's low. Second walk issued by Bauer.
Well, live Indians baseball is back in 2015 with the MLB.com at bat on your smartphone or tablet. You can stay connected with live radio broadcasts, stats, breaking news, and more. Download MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball.
Chris Coughlin in left field. One of 4 left-handed bats in the lineup. Pops it up. And it's the center fielder, Bourne, who ultimately called for it. Ball hung in the air a long time.
Yeah, with that wind blowing in, you think it's going to hang up there. They're not going to carry tonight.
This ballpark has that reputation on days when the wind is blowing out that you can see a lot of home runs.
Yeah, it's like a bandbox.
Yeah,
right. And it is true. But also, on cool April days and winds blowing in, it could be a huge ballpark where you can't hit one out.
I don't know how this plays on television for our audience at home, but Jason Beret, who pitched here in his career, told me that acoustically, he said it's like Fenway Park. He said sometimes a guy will swing and he'll hit a ball and it doesn't sound like he crushed it.
Right.
And the next thing you know, it's in the seats. He said, I don't know if it's something about the older ballparks, but he said the sound isn't the same as you hear it in a lot of other places.
It has to be the older ballpark, because I can tell right here, this seems like Fenway Park to me. And listening to it from where we're sitting and the way we see it just doesn't sound the same. I would agree with that. Maybe it's because the decks are not as high, it's just not as enclosed, and you don't hear the crack of the bat.
Well, think about it. That lower deck goes all the way back. There's nothing but those pillars, the columns.
Yeah.
There's no infrastructure underneath like you have in a lot of the other ballparks, which would maybe give it a different sound. He went around, I do believe. Yes, he did. That'll be a strikeout for Bauer, his second. And it ends the second with no score in Chicago. Always interesting to see the Indians pitchers take their turn at bat in these interleague games.
Absolutely, and every guy has their own way of going about things. Trevor told me yesterday he has not swung a bat since we were in LA last year and doesn't plan on swinging one when he's up to bat at all. He wants to worry about pitching and only pitching. He doesn't care about hitting, so this will be very interesting tonight.
That's amazing to me, Andre, only because you're in a National League ballpark, and I understand you're not a hitter and you're never going to hit, but you have to bunt.
Right.
And the situation may come up where he has to square around and bunt. At least you got to go in there and practice that, wouldn't you?
You would think so, but I think for the Indian standpoint, because of this, they don't want to get these guys hurt. He has done some of that. He has worked on bunting, but he doesn't think hitting is a big deal. But Terry Francona goes, look, I want to take care of my guys and protect them since we don't do this every day.
I know we don't do it every day, but you got to try to win. I mean, they're athletes.
That's a pretty good cut he took, though. I mean, he was not going to be a bystander.
That was a pretty good take, too. I don't blame him. If you get a chance, go ahead and swing it. That was the fastball up and in that he swung at. So that's 4 strikeouts now for Arrieta.
1 away for Jason Kipnis. Kipnis grounded out his first time up. Ten straight games with a hit for Kipnis. He's hitting 35 out of 40.
Right. Boy, I can't believe that ball missed him. I thought that ball had hit him, but it goes way in there and just misses the thigh. Just trying to crowd him, not give him much swinging room. Kipnis has been wearing out the outside part of the plate, so if they've been looking at any video, which I'm sure he has, he can see why.
Almost offered at it, but he held up. And the count is full.
A lot of full counts between both pitchers so far in this ball game. Take a look at the check swing. Close.
Three balls, 2 strikes, 1 down here in the third. And the payoff pitch is popped foul down the left side, and that will slice its way into the crowd. Boy, Ricky, see a foul ball down there, you can't help but think back to that National League Championship Series against the Marlins.
Down the left field
Every time
line.
I see a ball popped up down there, all I think of is
that's true.
poor Steve Bartman. That's over off of the facing of the Cubs dugout, ricocheting up into the seats.
I will say this: if you're sitting in the seats down there along the field, you better be ready and pay attention on every swing.
Popped him up back of the plate. Montero to the screen, but can't get to it. And he draws a walk. Good at bat for Kipnis. The Indians have a 1-out base runner here in the third, and it's time now for our great clip of the game from Sunday. Francisco Lindor got his first big league hit and then took a tumble.
And his first big league fall.
I still love the fact that he was trying to blame it on Cabrera. Because you know how you do when you fall down. You're, oh, I hope nobody saw that. You know,
right?
So what do you do? Oh, he tripped me. He must have tripped me.
I did that one time, my very first game in professional baseball after I signed. Went to A-ball, was running down the line and hit first base and just went face first. Trying to run too fast. So I know exactly what he was doing. It is embarrassing, but you know, at least he was hustling.
Lindor in the hole. Kipnis a good lead at first. And he strikes him out. Good off-speed pitch, and that's 5 strikeouts for Arrieta.
Here's a breaking ball from Arrieta. There it is on the outside part of the plate. Stays out there. You know, and he's throwing hard enough, and he's going inside on a lot of these left-handers. Look at Rizzo.
I noticed
almost
that.
sits over there like a catcher.
Yeah.
When he's over there getting ready to take the throw from the pitcher. You know what? I think I know why. There's sun coming in from that ballpark. I could see Sandy blocking his eyes too, so I bet it's to stay down below the sun.
There's just a little bit of the setting sun that cuts right through the lower grandstand.
Yep, comes in. There it is. Good shot, boys. That's what he's doing. He's getting down there to where that ball doesn't get into that sunlight and handcuff him. I was wondering why he was getting so low.
I was too.
I haven't seen this before, but now we got it figured out. Way to go, Colombo.
Kipnis got a great jump, and he will steal that off the pitcher. No chance for Montero. Kipnis with his 9th stolen base on the year.
Yeah, just he was off to the races. Montero not even going to offer a throw. That's what you call a good jump.
I was thinking, well, you never know with Joe Madden. Maybe that's maybe he came up with a new technique for his first baseman. Michael Brantley takes it inside, 2-0.
I give Arrieta credit to this point. He's trying to go inside on a lot of these left-handed hitters. Lefties are hitting 234 off him. Actually, righties are hitting better, 254. And again, for the second time, Brantley walks. Well, you can celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Tribe's 95 World Series team. That'll take place Saturday. 12,500 fans will get a design T-shirt. And come join Jim Thome, Kenny Lofton, Bayerga, and more. As the alumni will be on hand. You can get your tickets at Indians.com.
Santana takes it's up high, ball 1. Carlos walked his first time up. Indians have had 4 base runners, all via the walk, and that's going to bring out Chris Bosio.
Well, you know, he has 4 walks, but I understand where he doesn't really want to pitch to Brantley a whole lot when you've got first base open, you've got Santana coming to the plate. I'd much rather pitch to Santana. He walked 2 in the first with 2 outs. It was Brantley and Santana. Maybe Bosio sees something out there, some kind of pattern taking place, so he wants to go out there. He has 2 outs. He's got 2 walks in the inning, 2 strikeouts in the inning.
Well, we'll see what he does the rest of this at bat with Santana. There's a long fly ball, deep right field. Back is Denorfia, and it's gone. Carlos Santana clears the ivy, and the Indians take a 3-0 lead on a 2-out blast off the cleanup hitter tonight.
Well, whatever Bosio told him, he said the wrong thing. Because the very next pitch, it is a 3-pointer. And he got a fastball up and out over the plate. And Santana just gives it a whack, and it gets into the seats. For Santana, his 8th home run, give him 3 RBIs, and the Indians are going to play from in front.
See how smooth and under control that swing was from Santana that time?
And that was a fastball away. He gave him some swinging room.
Brandon Moss sends one high in the air to left. Back is Coughlin onto the front edge of the warning track. And the inning is over. But Carlos Santana tees off here in the third. A 3-run shot, and the Indians lead 3-0. You don't need any ice out here. Stay tuned later in the game for Miller Time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Lots of Indians fans here in Chicago for this, what has turned into a one-game event now.
Yeah, unfortunately, that makeup date for the rain out yesterday will be August 24th, 1 o'clock game. That'll be the end of a 11-day road trip going to Minnesota, Boston, New York, and then a quick trip here for one game and back home.
Ground ball to the shortstop, Francisco Lindor, who throws out Arrieta. 1 down. Injury report brought to you by the injury lawyers at Elk and Elk. Jorge Soler, one of those very talented young players for Chicago. Big Michael, we remember him from his days with the Rangers.
Right.
Jacob Turner. A couple other guys on the DL right now for Chicago. There's a pitch over the outside corner for strike 1. Joe Madden bats his pitcher 8th, and he bats Addison Russell 9th. And there are multiple reasons for this. Some people think, oh, it's just Joe Madden trying to be different. Well, yes, that's true partly, but he says, for one, Addison Russell, as a young player, it's going to give him a better opportunity to get pitches to hit if he's batting in front of Dexter Fowler than if he's batting in front of the pitcher, because nobody's going to throw him anything to hit when you get the pitcher on deck.
Well, and plus you got Rizzo hitting second, one of their best hitters, probably their best hitter.
And that's why Rizzo bats second and Bryant bats third. Any other lineup, they're probably 3 and 4.
Right.
But he wants them to bat in the first inning, get them as many at-bats as possible in the ball game.
That makes sense. That makes total sense to me. You see a lot of very good hitters now for teams hitting in that number 2 hole.
Perfect placement by Addison Russell with a seeing eye single, has him aboard with 1 out here in the 3rd inning. He consulted with the other guy who used to do it, and that's Tony La Russa. He said, you know, I used to see La Russa do it, and I used to wonder, what is he doing? What does he know? Why is he batting his pitcher in the 8th spot? So he said, when I thought about doing it, I called him and asked him why he did it and kind of his thinking on it. And it all made perfect sense.
Yeah.
And, you know, here's the difference between the two men. La Russa has batted the pitcher 8th more times than anybody, I think, ever.
but he only did it sporadically. He would look at the matchups and he would pick his spots. Joe Maddon's done it every game.
Does he? Okay, so he. Well, I understand it because the pitcher like Arrieta, he's 0 for what, 25 in his
over
this
26
year.
now.
Yeah, over 26. So it doesn't really matter. He's going to be an easy out. Why not put him in the 8th hole? And that's your leadoff man, really, is Addison Russell. Although he's not getting his first at bat till the 3rd inning. Let's put it that way. But your other big bats are getting him. I can understand that. It makes sense.
Two balls, no strikes. And now Bauer falls behind 3-0. Gets one over. 3-0 Cleveland on the 3-run homer by Carlos Santana in the top half of the inning. Now Santana holds Russell, who has just 1 steal on the year. And that's ball 4. Here's our Levin Furniture player profile on Anthony Rizzo, who walked his first time up. Originally a 6th-round pick of the Red Sox. Went to the Padres for Adrian Gonzalez. And now he is fast becoming one of the key players in this Cubs renaissance. Theo Epstein, the general manager who came from Boston. Added John Lester in the offseason as a huge free agent signing. And their drafts are really starting to pay dividends now.
Yeah, they're expecting a lot from this Chicago team. I mean, they're young. They have position players. That's where their youth is coming from. Unlike, let's say, the Mets, their youth is from the pitching standpoint of it.
Rizzo putting up excellent numbers in the clutch here.
Look out. Oh, man.
Yeah, that ball right over the top of the dugout, and there's just, as I said before,
no way to get out of the way.
You're so close that you can't get out of the way.
No question. Even if you see it coming, it's awfully tough too.
Popped him up on the infield. Lindor, the shortstop, makes the catch. 2 down. That'll bring up Chris Bryant.
I'm going to send along a birthday wish to Ross John Sr., who's turning 87, former mayor of Mayfield Heights. So Ross, happy birthday.
All right. Two on, 2 out. Chris Bryant struck out his first time up. And he takes low ball 1. According to Stats Inc., Chris Bryant is the first Cubs rookie to have 2 hitting streaks of 10 or more games in the same season. since Bill Madlock in 1974.
I saw that. Mad Dog, yeah, because a rookie.
I'm not sure Bill Madlock would come up to Chris Bryant's waist.
He could hit, though. His arms, boy, how quick was he on the inside part? You couldn't jam him.
And if I remember right, he was a very good defensive third baseman.
Yeah. You know the funny thing, when we heard about Chris Bryant and how talented this kid, you heard all about his power. But this guy uses the whole field. He's consistent. He runs the bases very well. He's an all-around ball player. When we just heard about him early and coming into spring training, when we saw him, it was just all about the home runs. But that's, he's more than just a long ball. He's the total package. You remember that was the debate this year. They had a sign up here around Wrigley Field when, I forget what company was doing it. Obviously one that sponsors him.
Up the middle. Kipnis to the backhand. He'll save a run from scoring, but it will be an infield single for Bryant.
That's okay.
Russell stops at third.
That's your job as an infielder. If you can't get it out, you make sure you knock it down and the run can't score. Kipnis goes on the shortstop side and slides to catch this base hit from going into center field. As Lindor was diving in front of him, Kipnis backs him up and saves a run. It's a hit, but you save a run, and now the bases are loaded with 2 outs.
And now they'll shift defensively again with the left-handed hitting Miguel Montero to the plate. Not a drastic, but more of a shading type shift when Lindor's up the middle. Kipnis pulling around on the right side.
Yeah, because the outfielders
are. My, he swung so hard he almost fell down.
Where do you think he was trying to hit that one to? And he swung at a changeup. You look at the outfielders, they're almost shaded the other way. But there's a changeup, and he tried to hit that one out of the ballpark.
Yeah, sometimes we see that where the infield will shift to the right and the outfield shifts the opposite way. And it's 0-2.
Back-to-back changeups. They're no dummies. They know he's geared for one pitch. That's the fastball. And actually, those changeups are in great spots. Even though he's swinging as hard as he is, the location of those pitches are outstanding. There's your fastball. Just show it to him. Where he's not going to do any damage to you. He could follow up well with a good curveball or another changeup.
Bases loaded, 2 out. And a 1-2 pitch. Bounced in front of the plate.
There's the breaking ball. Still think he wants to get back to that changeup.
The 2-2. And a foul back. Pretty good career numbers for Montero.
Yeah, 3 for 5 this year, but you can see 2 salamis, 341 average in his career.
The 2-2. Another foul back.
Now, see, Gomes is a little upset. But you can't hold on to him. You can't practice that. It's a foul tip that goes in and out of his glove. And as catchers, you can't practice anything like that because it hits him off the top part of the glove. It didn't go into his pocket. He's upset it didn't stick because it would have been end of inning. Yeah, this is your action pitch here. You don't want to go to 3-2.
High, full count.
Well, something's got to shake out.
Three 0 Cleveland, but the Cubs threatening here in the bottom of the third. Bases loaded, 2 out. Crowd in full throat. Payoff pitch. Back to the screen.
Elevated the fastball. Looked like it was up and in to Montero. Just above the belt. Tough pitch to catch up to. Now Gomes wants to run out and talk to Bauer. They want to get on the same page. Don't even know if they'll put a sign down.
Bauer sets. Again the 3-2. Swung out and missed. He struck him out with some high heat. And the inning is over. Third strikeout for Bauer. Cubs leave him loaded. 3-0 Cleveland. "16 strikeouts, 1 walk or less, and a 1-hit shutout since 1914.
Yeah, that was Max Scherzer Sunday. Gary Wood, of course, who pitched here. Remember that 20 strikeout game against Houston?
Gomes with a liner right at the second baseman, Addison Russell. 1 away. With 1 away, Michael Bourne to the plate, struck out his first time up.
What?
Bourne squared but pulled the bat back. Had Bryant charging at third. Foul back. Low and away, 2 balls and a strike for Michael Bourne. Three-run homer by Carlos Santana last inning, giving the Indians the 3-0 lead. Bourne lifts one, foul, out of play again. And Bourne is rung up. Second time he's down on strikes. May 6, 1998. Kerry Wood.
Yeah.
20 strikeouts in a ballgame.
Pretty good breaking ball that day, I would say.
Giovanni Urshela takes a strike. 2 down here in the 4th inning. Good fastball threw it by him there. It's 0-2. Arrieta has already struck out 6 Indians hitters here tonight. Appeal, he did not go, says the crew chief Jerry Davis. So many times the Indians have had base runners this year via the walk, but not many times have they been able to make them pay where they did tonight.
Yeah, that big 2-out hit. Santana is happened to leave the yard. Yeah, this is where you're in the National League now as a pitcher. Got the number 8 hitter up. You certainly would like to retire this guy because you make the pitcher lead off the next inning.
Way outside. Two balls, 2 strikes. And Urshela shoots that one over into the Cubs dugout. Big chopper toward short. Castro charged it, did a nice job to short hop that, and throws him out. Indians go in order for the 2nd time tonight. Well, after we went to commercial break, Michael Bourne went to Phil Cuzzi to talk about some of the calls. I don't know if that was that one in particular or some of the other calls he didn't like, but he went out and gave him a piece of his mind, and Cuzzi threw him out of the ball game.
Yeah, it sure did. He was out there. They were carrying on a conversation for a few seconds, and then he gives him the heave-ho, and then Michael wanted to get his say in before he has to leave. That's frustration right there. So now Brantley will end up having to go to center field, and then Murphy comes into the game and will go to left field.
Well, they always talk about you have to be ready at a moment's notice. Well, this was definitely that for David Murphy. I mean, usually you kind of get a feel for when your opportunity might come late in the game, pinch hit situation. You start to get yourself loose, mentally ready. And, Murphy was just sitting on the bench, and all of a sudden gets thrown out of the game. He's got to chug out there immediately.
No big deal. He's ready.
Starlin Castro walked first time up.
Castro been a hero for the Cubs the last couple of days. Had walk-off base hits against Cincinnati on Saturday and Sunday.
Two balls and a strike. You know, a lot of times when a manager sees a player getting into an argument, he'll run out immediately to get in the middle of it to try and save his player from getting thrown out.
Right.
But I think Terry Francona, that probably caught him by surprise, because you're expecting Bourne just to run out on the field and take his position defensively.
Yeah, you're not looking at any confrontation.
And he walked out there, and it started out as just a conversation, but it quickly escalated before anyone could intervene on Bourne's behalf. In fact, Brantley tried, but by the time Michael got there, that's when Cuzzi ejected him.
Well, I'm sure that's what Brad Mills is telling Terry there. He's the one that had to run out.
Castro rung up, fourth strikeout for Bauer. One down here in the fourth inning.
Let's make this our Circle K strikeout. Bauer gets a little comeback fastball on the outside edge. Good pitch for his fourth strikeout. First out of the fourth inning.
Chris Coughlin fly to center in the second inning. See a lot of red in the stands tonight, and they're not wearing Indians uniforms or jerseys.
Yeah. Well, you know,
Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup last night here in Chicago, clinched on home ice. And this area, Wrigleyville, where tens of thousands of them were partying into the wee hours of the morning.
Well, they had the Stanley Cup here tonight in the ballpark.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, they made their
whole team.
Their whole team made the appearance. They came out in a pregame ceremony that was electric.
They paraded it all around the ballpark on the warning track. Coughlin sends one to deep right field. Moss running out of room, and he reaches out, makes the catch in the corner. Terrific play by Moss, because he's running out of room down there. There's no padding on these walls.
Watch
folks.
him take a peek. Watch him take a peek. He did a nice job of running, picking up where he was. He knew the ball wasn't going to get out. He just got to his spot. There he is. He picks it up.
Oh, we did find some padding on the walls. That might be the only spot.
Yeah, from the ivy. You're talking the outfield walls. Yes, you're right.
I didn't realize there was any padding on those side walls either. That was yeah, right down there beyond the bullpen.
Sure.
That's smashed into left field. And David Murphy plays it on a hop. Chris Denorfia picks up a single with 2 outs here in the 4th. Let's go down to Andre with more on the friendly confines.
They say they're friendly, Matt, but some of the outfielders said it's not too friendly, especially out there where the ivy is. A lot of the outfielders during batting practice and even when they were hitting under the cages, which are out in the outfield, they said they kind of threw the ball off of there to kind of see how it would come off. And they also said they didn't want to run into him because there's no padding with that ivy. Now, down the lines is a little different and a little goofy. So this is just one of those parks. And, you know, even Brandon Moss said we only have 1 game here, so it's hard to get too into it. But you got to pay attention to where you're at when you're at in this ballpark.
You know, I was watching batting practice today, and there were some balls hit out there that sticks in the ivy.
They just kind of disappear.
Yeah, you go, it goes in there, you can't find it.
Jake Arrieta does not have a hit this year.
Gomes can't even see it. It's getting to that time of the night.
Twilight action?
Yeah. He looked up and lost it. And look at, he's telling him, I can't see it. I can't catch what I can't see. Well, that was into the seats anyway, Jan, so don't worry about it. So infielders, beware. Make sure you give your outfielders a little help or point if you can.
Arrieta has struck out 17 times in those 0 for 26 stats we showed you. Bauer's 0-2 almost sailed over his head.
He was just going to throw him a token curveball.
You know what, I was surprised when I looked at Arrieta's stat line offensively, not a single sacrifice.
Well, he's hitting 8. Maybe the 7th guy isn't.
I guess not.
I don't know when he's pitched.
Struck him out looking. That gives Bauer 5 Ks on the night. And we'll head to the 5th inning at Wrigley Field with the Indians on top 3-0. Northern Ohio Honda dealers. By the Cleveland Clinic. Call for an appointment today. And by the game-changing all-new Ford F-150. The future is tough. Three to nothing. The Indians lead it on a 3-run home run hit by Carlos Santana in the 3rd. After Jake Arrieta walked 2. And it all happened with 2 outs. Trevor Bauer struck out his first time up.
Well, you would expect Bauer to strike out because he hasn't touched a bat since the last time he pitched in the National League Park, which was L.A., right?
It's 3-0, by the way.
And don't even look. It's take sign. Would you die if he swung the bat here? 3-0.
I'm curious to see what he does here. 3-1 though.
Take.
I know that's the sign, but what is he going to do?
Take.
Bullseye. Full count.
Now you can get after it. Should get a straight fastball right there, just where the last one was. Oh boy, at least he fouled one off. It goes to show you, even if you don't take batting practice and you know what's coming, you can at least maybe get to it after you take a couple and you gauge the speed. You can at least try and put it in play.
And he's got a line drive single into center field.
Attaboy. See what I'm saying? That's how easy it is. Keep it simple.
His first major league hit. I assume he's going to want the ball.
Yeah. Throw it out. Get it over there. I'll be
there it goes.
Yes, sir, man. Get to 3-0. He takes 2 fastballs, fouled one off, and he gets a base hit. Congratulations. This is our McDonald's. I'm loving it. He elevated the fastball, and look at that. Who needs batting practice? Good job.
And the sin there, if there is one, I guess, for the pitcher Arrieta, it's that he fell behind him 3-0.
That's true. How important do we say pitch ahead in the count? And look at that.
Right back to him. Almost threw it away. They get the out at second, but because of the near misfire, they don't turn 2.
Castro did a nice job of catching the ball. It was a bad throw by Arrieta. That was an automatic double play, Paul. If you just feed him, give him a good throw. Castro comes across the bag and makes it, but you can see, I don't know if he was going up the mound or if that had anything to do with it, but he saves him. Kept his foot on the base and tried to make a throw back to first base on the seat of his pants.
I think because you're right, Rick, he was falling off to the right, so as he's falling downhill, he just yanked the throw across his body. And Castro did a heck of a job. Otherwise, that could have been really disastrous for Chicago.
He saved him an error. Boy,
Kipnis takes off first pitch, and he stole that about halfway there before they realized he was gone, I think.
He has definitely a read on Arrieta for whatever. He's just, look at it. He's step, and gone. So they have the stopwatch. They know going into this that they can run on him, and Kipnis hasn't wasted any time whatsoever.
Lindor takes up high ball 1, or ball 2 rather. Fly to center in the first, struck out in the third. Right back up the middle, and that's through. Lindor will drive home Kipnis, and the Indians lead it 4-0.
Lindor gets his first ribby. Nice job taking it up the middle, and there you go, behind in the count again, and they take advantage of Arrieta.
So how about that for an inning? Trevor Bauer gets his first major league hit. Lindor gets his first major league RBI, all in the same inning as the Indians lead it now 4-0.
Stolen base pays dividends. Yep, Kipnis has scored twice tonight.
Michael Brantley takes a fastball for a strike. Brantley has walked twice tonight. Came around and scored on the homer by Santana. I thought maybe, Rick, they were just simply pitching around Michael Brantley. Joe Madden has seen him, obviously, in his first couple of years in the big leagues. He was with Tampa Bay, so he knows what Brantley's all about from a first-hand experience. But in that third inning, after he walked Brantley, Bosio went out to talk to him. So maybe it wasn't that he was working around him. He was just having trouble commanding the ball, whatever it was.
Well, he was messing with some pitches inside, but after Chris Bosio talked to him, he left the mound, and Santana hit the next pitch out of the ballpark. That's not, you don't like that as a coach. You don't like going to the mound, especially after something bad happened after you've just visited. It's nice if it works.
And the 0-2 pitch is popped to shallow left. Long run for Coughlin. He makes the catch. Unbelievable. Lindor all the way back to first just in the nick of time. I thought it was going to come out of his glove because it appeared to snow cone, but he somehow was able to keep control of the baseball through the catch.
Yeah, I saw White all the way through this dive, and it's right at the end, and that thing stayed in there. It's unbelievable. Wow. You would think that thing might just come out. It doesn't. Look at that. That thing just stuck right there, and he puts his other hand in there to grab it. That's a great play.
Yeah, and I don't think you'd have a challenge there, because I thought maybe did the ground keep the ball, make contact with the ball?
That thing stayed in his glove.
Barely, but it did. And now there are 2 down. Santana, who homered in the third. Time called. Santana steps away. Down in the dirt. AT&T U-verse rewind. That's the fastball. It was up, it was away, and he yanked it out of here.
Yeah, he gets that 3-pointer at that. That ball was elevated. That Santana just got underneath that. That'll actually, going into that wind, pretty good carry to it.
Runner goes, throw down, off the mark. And Lindor with his first stolen base. So a lot of firsts getting knocked out here in this 5th inning.
3rd stolen base of the night. Well, he takes off, gets himself in scoring position. Head straight down, peeks back in, knows he's got to get after it, slides head first, gets his first bag.
Three and 1 is the count. And now Montero's got to go out. 4-0 Cleveland. Santana trying to make it 5. Takes a strike, full count. Or maybe 6 should he decide to leave the yard again. And the payoff pitch. Missed inside, ball 4. Time for a Mazda game break. Here's Al Pawlowski. Thanks, Al. Here's Brandon Moss. He has struck out Flido.
Now, the 5 walks are the most he has allowed this year.
Moss chops one foul. Well, it's not like he's been throwing a ball all over the place. You just wonder if he hasn't been a victim of being too careful. Trying to be too fine.
Yeah, that could be. 2 of his 5 walks have come in to score. That was, of course, the 3-run homer by Santana back in the 3rd.
Well, plus he has 6 strikeouts tonight to go along with his stat line.
They have 2 hits. In the end, 3 hits total now. Yeah.
Edwin Jackson getting loose for the Cubs. Swung on and missed, 2-2. Upstairs. Full count. Arrieta already at 107 pitches in the 5th inning. The runners will be off on the payoff pitch. And Moss got a piece of it to keep the inning going a little longer. If Moss gets aboard, you have to believe that we'll see Jackson.
If he's ready. If he is ready.
More pressure on the bullpen catcher in a ballpark like this than anywhere else. Again, the runners go. The 3-2 is ball 4. And the bases are loaded.
Wow, 6 walks.
Ties his career high.
6 walks, 6 strikeouts, and I don't see Madden making an appearance yet.
Must not be ready.
Yeah, because when he just got up a hitter before that, I saw the catcher just get down. And Montero's trying to stall for time, and Madden's looking at the charts, and I don't know if he's waiting for a phone call or waiting for Montero to get back or what, but I would happen to say this is his last hitter, one way or the other.
Now Gomes could do some serious damage.
Yes, he could. You could poke a hole in this one.
Have you noticed that maybe the way the ballpark is configured, where the walls, they jut out at the gaps as they go toward the lines. The outfielders seem to crowd the gaps here. They don't play toward the lines as much.
Well, it certainly looks like that. They're giving the lines. It's a double down there anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, usually you give the lines and you take away the gaps. The gaps are the triples. Well, really, this isn't a triples ballpark because the gaps are shorter. But anything hit down that line is going to be a double anyway.
Indians on every base. Lindor at third, Santana at second, Moss at first. The pitch to Gomes hit high in the air, shallow left. Coughlin coming in, and he'll give way to Castro, the shortstop, who ends the inning. An inning of first. Trevor Bauer's first hit, Lindor's first RBI, his first stolen base. 4-0 Cleveland. Chicago Blackhawks team in tow. They all carried it around just as they did on the home ice last night when they clinched it. Joe Madden got to hoist it. And Jonathan Taves threw out the first pitch with Lord Stanley right next to him.
And then they went out for a team picture. The Cubs all ran out there. That was pretty cool.
Addison Russell singled his first time up.
That's what, 3 cups in the last 6 years for the Hawks.
Nice little dynasty they've got running. Swung on and missed. I love the history of the Stanley Cup. You know how every team has got their name engraved on it.
Right.
1-2 pitch.
Well, your team being the Penguins, of course, they had their run at it.
Yeah. They had back-to-back.
They had their
90s.
day.
2-2 pitch. Punch to left, and that will get down for a base hit.
It's funny. It looked like he slowed his bat down to wait up to catch up to that pitch. Might have been fooled, but he hits the line, tried to left field. Watch the swing, and then see how he just kept his hands back and just held them. He kept him back enough to get a base hit. He's 2 for 2.
Top of the order, and Dexter Fowler has grounded out and walked. And he takes low, ball one. Bauer falls behind 2-0. With the big hitters waiting in the wings, Rizzo and then Bryant. To left field. David Murphy over near the line. Makes the catch. And that sends Russell back to first.
Well, celebrate Jim Thome, Kenny Lofton, Carlos Baerga, and the rest of the 95 AL championship team. That'll take place Friday. Indians will host the Tampa Bay Rays. You can visit Indians.com for the ticket details.
Anthony Rizzo walked in the first, popped to short in the third inning. At the knees, a called strike. To center field, shallow with that wind blowing in, knocks it down, and Brantley makes the catch. 2 down. Gear up for the second annual Velosano Bike Ride for Cancer Research coming up mid-July. There's an option for everybody. 6 different routes, start and finish in downtown Cleveland. 1- and 2-day rides are available. Every dollar raised benefits cancer research at Cleveland Clinic. Spread the word. Bike to Cure. Get involved by visiting velosano.org. Chris Bryant struck out on the first, infield single in the third. Indians and Cubs will meet the next 2 nights in Cleveland.
I haven't checked how we're looking as far as weather goes. Do you know?
I do not know.
Okay.
I would assume that this cool weather is going to follow us home.
I would think you're right. Boy, it rained so hard here yesterday. It was scary.
You and I walked, what was it, 2 blocks from the train station to the hotel? Looked like we were in the shower with our
Looks
clothes
like we
on.
were underwater.
Looked like we swam Lake Michigan back. 2-0 pitch. Bryant pops it.
That should stay.
Looks like it's going to be in play. Santana can't get to it. The tarp blocked him out.
Yeah, you just never know here. Like you say, there's not a whole lot of room in foul territory.
If the tarp's not there, he might have been able to get to the front row and make the catch, but it gives Chris Bryant new life. In tight, 3 balls and a strike. High fly ball, shallow right field. Moss coming in. And the inning is over. 5 complete from Wrigley. Indians lead it 4-0.
Best perks. Tribe Rewards bonus code 1995. There was a big part of it.
Cleveland Clinic call to the bullpen is for Edwin Jackson. Right-hander, former starter. He's always had a terrific arm. He has allowed 6 earned runs with 17 strikeouts in 20 innings of relief this year. Made at least 27 starts in each of the last 8 seasons. But I'd have to say wildly inconsistent would be the best way to describe his career.
Pretty good way to put it.
I mean, when he's on, he's as good as anybody.
Well, the bullpen has been good for the Cubs. They posted a 1.54 ERA their last 3+ weeks, starting from May 23rd. So they've done a nice job, not giving up many runs or many hits. But right now, with the Tribe leading at 4-0, they don't have to worry. They got to worry about getting outs.
Out of play. Jackson's first full season in the big leagues came under the tutelage of Joe Madden. He went 5-15 that year, then bounced back and went 14-11 the next season. Then the year after that, he was 13-9, but that was in Detroit. The year after that, he was with Arizona. He was 6-10. And then in 2011, he started out 7-7 with the White Sox, went to St. Louis and was 5-2 in 12 starts.
Look at Murph just falling him off.
Wearing out the stands behind the dugout over there.
Didn't Jackson throw a no-hitter? And he walked about 7, I believe.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I think he had about 145 pitch complete game. No hitter. Was a while back.
Right back to him. 149 pitches. That's 149.
Yeah,
in
right.
the 8-walk, 6 strikeout, no-hit game.
Okay.
In-game recap brought to you by your Toyota dealers. Carlos Santana's 3-run homer in the 3rd. Plated a couple that had walked. And then Francisco Lindor's first Major League RBI, plating Jason Kipnis. And the Indians lead it 4-0. Urshela pops it sky high. And Rizzo in foul ground makes the catch. 2 down. Trevor Bauer last time up in a 3-2 count, socked one right back up the gut.
Yes, he did. It should be fun listening to him talk about how he approached that at bat. He started 3-0 in that at bat. Took a couple, fouled one off, and then drilled a base hit.
More importantly, he's pitched 5 innings of shutout baseball.
Yeah, let's keep that. Look at this. Keep it going.
1, 2, 3 go the Indians. 4-0 Cleveland. He has struck out 5 Chicago Cubs hitters.
There's 2 on the breaking ball right there. And he gets a fastball by Montero with the bases loaded. Another fastball away.
He walked a hitter in each of the first 3 innings, but got out of a bases loaded jam in the 3rd by striking out Miguel Montero, and hasn't walked a batter since.
So his dominance on the road has continued here through the first 5 innings, not allowing a run. I want to send along congratulations to Terry and Shirley Varner of West Salem, celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary.
Upstairs? No. Top of the strike zone for a called strike.
Well, Let's see what you think. Oh my goodness, that's old school strike right there. That's from the armpits to the knees. That's the rule book call.
Just above the belt, couldn't catch up to the heat. Pulls it, stays fair. And behind the bag, Santana will take it himself, one away. Starlin Castro coming up. 0 for 1. He walked in the second, struck out his last time up. Let's go down to Andre Knott, who more on Castro.
You know, I'm talking to Joe Madden yesterday. It was very interesting talking about Castro. He says he feels like he's on the verge of becoming the best shortstop in baseball, but he's always lacked concentration on the routine play. Makes a great play, but lacks routine. Last week, though, he's had 2 huge hits to win games for the Cubs, and he's basically told him, start using left center as your left field pole so he's not so pull happy, and he says he's going to become a great hitter if he can do that.
Boy, don't a lot of hitters. If they can just use more of the field, that's, and you know, sometimes that takes a lot to learn, a long time to learn, to believe it. But once you start doing it, you see the success that you have. And I'm going to tell you, you look at the good hitters and your high average hitters, and you'll see they use the whole ballpark from line to line.
To short, and Lindor throws him out. 2 down.
It's a great example right there on that pitch. How you try to pull that pitch that's down and away instead of maybe trying to shoot it to right center field or right back up the middle.
Top it, can't really drive it.
That's the difference right there. Pitches like that. You know, you figure throughout the course of the year how many at bats do you give away like that, where you end up pulling a pitch that you should just either hit up the middle or take the other way.
To right field, and I mean right at Moss. 1, 2, 3. First time tonight the Cubs go in order. Kia. Visit mykiacleveland.com to learn more. By Levin Mattress, located in all Levin furniture and freestanding locations. And by AT&T Uverse, has more channels on the go than cable. 7th inning here at Wrigley Field. The Indians lead it 4-0. Jason Kipnis leads off, looks at a ball down low. Kipnis has walked, also reached on a fielder's choice. He has stolen 2 bases. He has scored 2 runs. Off the plate, 3-1. Smashed into right field, a base hit. Well, Jason Kipnis stays red hot at the dish. He's now hit in 11 straight games.
And that's got a nice pitch on a 3-1 count. He pulled it in the hole. Lindor getting his first major league RBI in his last at bat. A nice job going up the middle. Now that's taken around, a turn around first base, and then ends up stealing his first bag. The 3rd for the Indians tonight.
1 for 3 on the night. Well, as you mentioned earlier, Kipnis had a book on Arrieta, and he stole 2 bases, and they weren't even close either time.
No.
In fact, the first time, Montero didn't even offer a throw. Down in the dirt. 1 ball, 1 strike. Upstairs with it. 2-1. Miami is pounding the New York Yankees tonight, 12-2. Nathan Eovaldi, the former Marlin, started that game for New York, lasted 2/3 of an inning.
How's that happen?
Gave up 8 runs.
Wow. Pitch against your former team, and they rough you up a little, huh?
2-1 delivery. Fouled out of play. And yet, Rick, that game at 12-2. There are a couple of teams that would look at Miami's 12 runs and say, that all you got? Baltimore at home has hit 8 home runs, and they lead Philadelphia 19-3.
Wow. 8 homers.
Washington down in St. Pete is beating Tampa Bay tonight 16-1. Lindor, liner to right, and it's right at Denorfia. It's 1 down. Take a look at the American League All-Star voting, or Kansas City Royals voting.
Yeah, just show a picture of the team picture of the Royals.
Royals fans have absolutely dominated the ballot box.
Look at that. We're talking 7, 6 million, 5 million.
That's great for their fans, but I mean, Omar Infante is barely hitting above the Mendoza line, and Alcides Escobar isn't having that good of a year either.
Well, it is crazy, but it goes to show you their fans are into it. They're voting.
Not only that, Rick, but I just read where what's his name, Alex Rios, I think is 4th, and he
missed all that time.
He didn't play much.
I know. Well, you can't blame them for that. They're averaging over 32,000 fans a ball game. They made it to the World Series, 1 out away from it last year, so that you want the fans to vote. They voted. They've got their team in there.
Evidently, in that game between Philadelphia and Baltimore, Phillies starter Jerome Williams left with an unspecified injury in the first inning, and that led to the demise. They had to get into their bullpen right out of the chute.
They have a balk, but he didn't pause. Watch this. They balk him to second base. Comes set. Never really stopped. And the crew chief, Jerry Davis, called it at first base.
Brantley has walked twice and scored a run. And his last time up, he nearly blooped one in for a hit to left. But Chris Coughlin made a remarkable catch in that the ball stayed in his glove somehow. He was completely sprawled out diving. The ball snow cone right to the very edge of his glove, but it never fully came out. Hammered down to right field line, headed for the corner. That will score Kipnis. Brantley on his way to second base. He's got an RBI double. And the Indians' lead is now 5-0. And once again, Michael Brantley no back-to-back hitless games for him this year.
There it was. He gets it. Although he's been on 3 out of the 4 times. His 20th double now for Michael Brantley, and his 34th RBI just hits a bolt down the right field line. So they've scored in the 3rd, the 5th, and now the 7th. They make it a 5-0 ball game.
Runner goes. Brantley tried to steal third, and they got him. Perfect throw by Montero. I was kind of surprised to see Michael taking off there.
Well, it's a 5-0 game. You know, there's a left-handed hitter. You have to have a tremendous jump to take off. It's the first time he's been caught this year.
Took a perfect throw to get him. Look where the throw is.
Well, it is. It's a perfect throw, but there's an easy lane there. There's a left-handed hitter. He doesn't have to contend with a right-handed batter at the plate, so it was an easy throw for him.
Santana drove in 3 with 1 swing of the bat in the 3rd. He has 2 hits on the road trip. Both have gone for home runs. He's also walked twice tonight. High pop, shallow center. And Fowler will make the catch to end the inning. Indians pick up another run. Michael Brantley doubles into the right field corner to make it 5-0 Cleveland. 7th inning stretch brought to you by Spitzer Auto World. Tribe pitcher leading the crowd during the 7th inning stretch to take me out to the ball game.
He did some radio here in Chicago too for a while.
Pitched with the A's, the Indians, the Pirates, and the Cubs. He was originally drafted by the Orioles out of Elk Grove High School, but he didn't sign. Instead went to the University of Missouri. As Francisco Lindor fields it cleanly and throws out Chris Denorfia one away here in the 7th inning. At 6'7", that's a big pitcher.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. That's 6'7".
I forgot he was that big.
He didn't throw all that hard from what I remember. He wasn't, you know, a flamethrower. He came along about when Charlie Nagy started pitching, didn't he?
Yeah, I guess that sounds about right.
Sure.
I think he might have been
91. That was when McNamara was the manager.
Oh, you mean when he was with the Indians?
Yeah,
his career began before that. Yeah, 91 and 92. Trevor Bauer has retired 7 in a row. And Mike Baxter, the pinch hitter. He's down on the count 1-2. Cubs have a left-hander up in their bullpen. James Russell getting loose. Mike Baxter is the leader in pinch hit at bats. He's done it 14 times, just 2 for 14, however. Back out of play. You know, if you're watching National League Baseball on a regular basis, the pinch hitting role, it seems like the guys who get off to a good start usually have a pretty good overall year as a pinch hitter.
Yeah, confidence-wise.
You get off to a 2 for 14. It takes a long time to get any kind of feel.
Well, you get that one at bat. The one thing I will say about the National League, you're going to get more opportunities, and you'll see better pinch hitters because they have the opportunities to go up there and get a chance than they do in the American League.
Swinging a miss, strikes him out. That gives Bauer a half dozen Ks on the night, and there are 2 down. All right, coming up this Thursday, the greatest golfers in the world head to the Pacific Northwest. And our coverage of the 115th U.S. Open Championship live from Chambers Bay begins at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports 1. It continues in prime time at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on your local Fox affiliate. And it's all streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Foul back by Addison Russell, who was 2 for 2 on the night with 2 singles. Russell way out in front. Then to count 0-2. Some stirring in the Indians bullpen. Guys stretching, getting loose, but nobody up throwing. Bauer has been cruising along. And he strikes out Russell. Trevor Bauer has retired 9 in a row. He has struck out 7 on the night. 7 shutout innings. Tribe rolling 5-0.
reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cleveland Indians. Stay tuned for Indians Live, presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care, coming up next here on Sports Time Ohio. Going to the 8th inning with the Indians leading it 5-0. It will be the 5, 6, and 7 hitters due up for the Tribe, and left-hander James Russell on for the 21st time this year.
7 strikeouts in his 14 innings pitched. He gets Moss, Gomes, and, well, excuse me, let me see, not Bourne, Murphy.
Might have broken his bat. Pitcher's going to have to get there to cover it. Oh, what a job Russell did. And also give credit to the second baseman who made a perfect, or actually that's Chris Bryant.
Yeah.
The third baseman was over there on the shift. He made a perfect throw, and he had to throw it essentially to nobody.
Yeah, he let him. And sometimes that's hard to do. You know, when you try and lead the pitcher to the bag, you just got to trust that footwork's going to be there. And it was there. So you give them credit. They both made a nice play to retire Moss.
How many 5-1 putouts you ever seen?
Yeah, right. Well, in the days of shifting, you're going to see a lot more. Because, like we said, some teams put their third baseman out in right field. Detroit does it.
Yep.
A couple other teams do it.
Yan Gomes takes call strike. The Indians getting that run in the 7th inning off Edwin Jackson. Important in that this is a Chicago Cubs bullpen that lately has been very good.
Yes.
In their last
3 weeks.
Yeah, 3+ weeks, only a 1.54 ERA collectively.
They haven't been giving up many hits, let alone runs.
Gomes with a line drive base hit in the left field. In-game box score, check it out here for the Tribe. Top 4 hitters have done the damage. Kipnis has scored 3 runs. Lindor has driven in 1. Brantley has scored 1, knocked 1 in. Santana has knocked in 3.
Well, a 3-pointer got them off to the start. You know, the 3-run lead, they've been able to add solo runs in the 5th and the 7th. And that's the key right there. Get an early lead, add on. And Trevor Bauer has been himself on the road again this year, not allowing a run in 7 innings.
Zach McAllister getting loose. Looks like he'll be coming on next.
Yeah. And not only has Bauer pitched well, he got a base hit, his first major league hit.
And that kind of, hey, that's what started that 5th inning for the Indians, in which they were able to add on to the lead. They had a chance to really rip it open. They had bases loaded, but there were 2 outs when the inning came to a close. On the count. Now it's 3 balls and a strike. High pop, and this will get over the dugout and into the seats.
The payoff pitch hit to center. And Fowler drifts back a few strides and makes the catch 2 down.
Well, enjoy the new family deck and expanded kids clubhouse out at Progressive Field. Plus, kids, you can run the bases after the game against the Rays on Sunday. And kids cap courtesy of Cleveland Clinic. Visit Indians.com for the complete details.
Giovanni Urshela 0 for 3 on the night. He's grounded out twice and fouled out once. And he lines one towards center field. Fowler coming in a hurry, knocks it down. Gomes will head to third. A base hit for Urshela keeps the inning alive. Now we'll get Ryan Rayburn, a pinch hitter.
Well, there you go. A nice little fastball, line drive hit. Fowler's going to come on. Knew he wasn't going to get there, but it was awful key for him to keep that ball in front of him. Should that ball, if it would have got by him, I think Gomes might have been able to score, but he knocks it down. It's the first and third now with 2 outs. Well, the Indians out with 7 hits.
Rayburn 4 for 14 as a pinch hitter. 7 runs batted in. So they're going to walk him on. They'll intentionally load the bases to set up a lefty-lefty matchup between Russell and Jason Kipnis.
Yeah, they want to pitch around Rayburn to get to Kipnis. This should be interesting, because it doesn't matter for Kipnis who's pitching to him, lefties or righties. He's been hot no matter who. He's hitting about 260 off lefties, but Madden likes that matchup better.
Yeah, you could say it's just simply a case of numbers. Rayburn's hitting .313 against left-handed pitching, and Kipnis is hitting .257. So he said, I'll play the percentages and take my chances that way. In the meantime, Jason Kipnis has been on base 3 times tonight and scored 3 runs. Has a chance to drive in a couple with a hit here. Second time tonight the Indians have had a 2-out bases loaded situation. One and one to count. Good off-speed pitch. And now he's ahead 1-2.
There's that slider just off the outside edge, a teaser. Looks like a strike all the way, and at the end it just takes off, and it looks like it's outside.
Kipnis with a smash right at the second baseman, and Russell did a terrific job to pick it, and the inning is over. Go to the bottom of the 8th. Indians in control. Joe Madden having a lengthy conversation between innings. At times it seemed a little tense.
Well, you know, it was. Montero's been ejected and thrown out of the game.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, so he's out there protecting. So now each player has had a guy thrown out. I didn't realize that. Right. He was. Remember, we mentioned something about that high strike that was called.
Yeah, that was Montero was at the plate.
That was hitting. So he might have carried that conversation out behind the plate with him as well. Don't know that for sure, but.
Well, Zach McAllister will come on to pitch now for the Indians. After Trevor Bauer tossed 7 scoreless innings of 4-hit baseball.
Yeah, he was very good again. It's his 6th time he's gone at least 7 so far this year.
That's hit hard but foul. By the way, it's 58 degrees. It's June 16th, and it's 58
It is. This
degrees.
is, and yesterday was hot and humid, so
Yeah.
it's really. Yeah, just wait a little while. It'll change. This seems like April weather, doesn't it?
It's not June 16th weather, I can tell you that. Yeah. And we don't have that gear with us. We didn't pack the warm
didn't stop
stuff.
at the Cub shop.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Dexter Fowler leading off, and that's what has really cooled it off, is that wind coming off the lake out of the northeast and just keeping it chilly. The 2-2. Right back to McAllister, that gets by him, but behind him is Lindor, and he'll throw out Fowler.
Fanned on it.
As promised earlier, it's Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Trevor Bauer tonight got his first major league hit on a 3-2 pitch that led to a run. But the story was once again his road mentality.
Yeah, he just worked the count. He mixed in his fastball well. He had a few of them chasing his breaking ball. But once again, he scatters 4 hits, and he was brilliant. He went out there and made it look easy.
Speaking of brilliant and making it look easy, since we're out of here after tonight, wanted to make sure we didn't forget to mention that behind home plate, you may or may not have noticed tonight the large number 14 painted on the grass right behind home plate to honor the late Ernie Banks, who passed away this previous offseason.
Yes,
Mr.
indeed.
Cub. Played 19 years here.
Did you ever have a chance to meet him?
did.
I'm going to tell you something. One of the nicest guys you would have ever met in your life. And he was genuine. He loved baseball. He loved the Cubs. What an ambassador for the city of Chicago, for the organization, for the Chicago Cubs. He was truly a gentleman.
And his on-field exploits, 14-time All-Star. He still holds the record for home runs as a shortstop in the National League. 277. Back-to-back MVP awards. He had 47 home runs and 129 RBIs in 1958. Came back the next year, went 45 and 143. Those are incredible numbers. There's a high drive to center, but nothing's getting out of here tonight to that part of the yard. 2 away. .1970, the year before he retired, his 500th career home run.
Nice little line drive stroke on getting it out of here.
Number 14, Mr. Cub. Let's play 2.
Back in the day, he truly loved it. And every Sunday seemed to be a doubleheader. Back in those days. Nowadays, it's tough to find a doubleheader. I know you don't like to play 2. He certainly did.
So in his 17th year, I'm just looking at his stat line. It's incredible. In his 17th year, 3 years before he would call it a career, hit 23 homers and drove in 106.
Off year for him. 23-106.
That was 1969. The 0-2, a little bit high. Ring him up with a called third strike. And we'll go to the ninth with the Indians on top 5-0. Play of the game. Carlos Santana's 3-run homer in the third with 2 outs staked the Indians to the early lead, and they never looked back. And now as we go to the 9th inning, Cubs bring on a new pitcher, Zach Roskup, after left-hander James Russell got out of a bases-loaded 2-out jam in the 8th. And a new catcher, Kyle Schwarber, just into the ballgame. He's one of their top prospects from a year ago, draft out of Indiana. And these fans, you talk about knowing their baseball, they all got up and stood and cheered and applauded when his name was announced. They know all about him. And Francisco Lindor punches one through the right side of the infield. His second hit of the night.
Well, and he hit a couple other ones solid. One first at bat to center, last out to right field, hit a line drive, and that's taking what you're given, which is a base hit. He stayed on it. It's a nice swing, nice approach. He gets his second hit.
Lindor aboard now for Michael Brantley. Brantley doubled in a run his last time up, walked and scored back in the third. Takes low ball 1.
Yeah, that young catcher that they put in behind the plate after Montero was ejected, Schwarber, he's only going to be here for about a week. He's up here for interleague play. When they go to the American League parks like tomorrow, he may have a chance to DH. They wanted to see him swing the bat, a left-handed hitter. They said he'll probably go back down at the end of the week. After
because they called him up from Double-A. He hasn't even been to Triple-A yet.
Right. And they don't have catching issues. They just want the bat for this kid and let him DH and just see what it's like around here at the big league level.
Right, because Montero is signed for 2 more years after this one. so they don't feel like they need to rush anybody.
So come up, suck it all in and take advantage of it. There's Ross, who catches as the personal catcher, the big left-hander that we won't see in this series.
Oh, John Lester?
John Lester, yeah.
I still have a hard time thinking of him as being a Cub.
Lester's here. Yes, we won't see him, but Ross catches him every time.
3-1 the count for Michael Brantley. Oh, he hammers one high in the air, right field. Back to the track. Denorfia will make the catch right in front of that 368 mark.
Tell you what, you can't hit it much better than that. He put a great swing on that ball and it didn't get out of here.
Well, the Santana home run gave us a total of $12,000 raised for prostate cancer research. You can make a donation. Log on to homerunchallenge.org. Santana will bat here with 1 on, 1 out. Mark Zubczynski getting loose. And Roscoe's pitch is in the dirt. The 1-1. And Santana checked on a ball that was high. Santana awaiting a 2-1 offering now. Clubs it to left field. That's going to get down and go all the way to the warning track. Coghlan crashes into the ivy, doesn't have the ball. Lindor scores. Santana stops at second with an RBI double. And the Tribe's lead is now 6-0. Santana's second hit of the night. He's driven in 4 of the 6 runs for Cleveland. Boy, he did a nice job to get his hands in and pull that ball.
Yes, he did. That pitch was down. It helped him when he brought the hands in and he pulls it down the line. And I don't know what it is, but he's back in that number 4 hole, and he has 4 ribbies tonight. He's been on base 4 out of the 5 times he's been to the plate. So that's a good sign for Santana. And I like Lindor, what he showed in the number 2 hole tonight. He scored his first run, also driven one in. So that's a nice sign.
I know Terry Francona said earlier that he's not married.
Oh, he will be soon.
Lindor in the 2 hole and Santana in the 4 spot, but at least it's a long-term engagement for now.
I know what he's saying. You know, he's not going to commit one way or the other, but after watching tonight in those two spots, they'll be there again tomorrow.
Moss takes a strike.
Hey, look, I don't think you ever stay married to a lineup. You gotta float guys around. Terry doesn't like to do that. He likes to commit and stay consistent with his team. But boy, when you've got guys that you just feel good about them in certain spots, you have to leave them there.
Down low.
Nothing wrong with tinkering with a lineup when you have, when sometimes you're struggling. But what I like, the Indians have added on. They've scored in 4 of the innings tonight. The big home run, and then the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, and 9th. It's been the odd innings. 3, 5, 7, 9. And they had opportunities. You know, they left the bases loaded twice tonight with 2 outs.
Well, Chris Bosio's going out again. And Phil Cuzzy's going out quickly.
Well, I don't see a trainer, so he's just, it is going to be a mound appearance. Looks like he's going to ask him if he's all right.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was surprised there wasn't a trainer that went out with him, because the way he talked to Cuzzy, it seemed like, hey, I want to check and see if he's all right.
Well, maybe one will come out now. Looks like Madden's coming out, and will the trainer? Yes. Now they will, yeah. So that probably will not be a mound visit. Well, just a little arm shake that you see a lot, but they want him to double check and make sure.
Now that's going to be it. I think they're going to call for another pitcher. So they're not going to
take a chance.
Yeah, we're going to have a timeout here because Rosscup will not be able to continue. Although it looks like he's trying to talk his way into staying.
Well, it doesn't. They've already made the call. It doesn't matter that, you know. They're not going to let him throw another pitch. It's something tight up in the shoulder or whatever. So whoever is coming in, we'll see. We'll have all the time he needs to get ready.
We'll have a right-hander entering the game with the Indians in front now by a score of 6-0. Furniture get to Arrieta early. He didn't last long. He only went 5. He walked 6 in the ball game, and they
season high
took advantage on the 3-run homer that Santana hit. 2 that scored had reached via the walk. And Trevor Bauer, outstanding. Just really, really solid performance tonight.
4 hits, did not allow a run. Look at the 1.10 road ERA this year. He's been dynamite. So he's looking for his 6th win.
Justin Grimm making his 18th appearance. He came on for Zach Rosscup, who went 1/3 of an inning and left with some type of a shoulder issue. And he'll be facing Brandon Moss, who has a 3-1 count. just waiting to see how long it'll take. Looks like he needs one more, and then we'll be ready to go.
Now, the one thing about relievers, they're not like starters. They get out there, they throw about 10 to 15 pitches, and they're about ready.
He wants one more after that last one went to the backstop. Finish on a good one.
All right. Is he ready? Yes, he is.
Brandon Moss will be the batter. Carlos Santana is at second base, and there is one out in this ninth inning. 35,914. We're here at the outset. Many of them have headed for home. During the, I believe it was the 1932 World Series between the Cubs and the Yankees, I saw a photo of the packed stands. They averaged almost 50,000 a game here. I don't know where they put them, unless there were no individual seats and it was all bleacher-style seating. I don't know how they could have crammed 49,000.
They were smaller back in those days.
It must have been sitting on each other's laps.
No kidding. Totem poles.
Moss draws a walk. So 2 on with 1 out for Yan Gomes. Gomes 1 out of 4. He lined a single to left his last time up. Fouled right back. After going 0 for 12 with a runner in scoring position in the Tigers series, Tribe is 3 for 6 so far here tonight. What a difference that makes when you can get a couple of hits like that.
Well, and I think the earlier you get it, the better it is for this ball club. At least it seems to be that way. Guys seem to relax a little bit more.
Two quick strikes on Gomes.
I think those guys were at the hockey game last night.
They haven't gone to bed.
It could be. That was like the last time we were in Chicago over at the White Sox game, if you remember. A couple of hecklers. We had a couple of good laughs, didn't we?
Yeah. Now the 1-2. Bounced it in front of the plate. Schwarber did a nice job to get a body on it.
Oh, that's right. One of the hitters struck out or something. The guy yelled out, "He gone." Remember that?
It's interesting, Rick. I've noticed Schwarber is going to, he's got like a quarterback in football. He's got a wristband. Looks like he's looking at a play in the huddle.
Oh, yeah?
He must have, because he probably isn't familiar with these pitchers.
Oh,
he's got to know.
They throw?
Yeah.
That's a good call. I didn't see that. Really good call.
Go to second for 1 on to first. Not in time. There are 2 down. Santana is at third. You know, I'm thinking if he was only at Double-A,
right?
I don't even know if he was in spring training with the big league club. I would say it was probably doubtful. If he was, it was probably brief.
If he hasn't been here in 3 years, you don't think he unless he was a invite.
And as you said, he wasn't really expected to catch. He was just going to do some DH.
Right.
So he's got that, and when he lifts that up, I'm assuming it has
the bullpen pitchers. I guarantee you're right.
What's this guy throw? He's got this, and this. So. Okay.
That'd be the first time I've ever seen anything like that.
I can't remember ever seeing it. See, there he goes to it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's hope he knows now that the guy's in there.
Pitch is outside. 1 ball, 1 strike. Oh man, nasty breaking ball in the dirt. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Good fastball. Just froze him with it. And the inning is over, but the Indians add to their lead. Will go to the bottom of the 9th. 6-0 Cleveland. Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care is coming up next here on Sports Time Ohio. We go to the bottom of the 9th inning. 4, 5, and 6 due up for Chicago. Left-hander Mark Zipchinski will come on for the Indians. Zipchinski making his 31st appearance of the year, a win, 2 losses. Opposition batting .241 against him. He's walked 5, struck out 18 in his 14 1/3 innings of work. Right-hander Brian Shaw is up and throwing in the bullpen. You got the left-handed hitting Montero, right-handed bat in Castro, and then the left-handed bat of Coughlin. I wouldn't assume he'd have Shaw up if he didn't plan on bringing him into the game.
Right. Maybe he's on just to face this left-handed rook that came into the ball game.
Schwarber takes a strike. Swing and a miss. And it's quickly 0-2. Three pitches, and Schwarber's first major league at bat ends with a called 3rd strike. This is pretty good pitching by Zipchinski.
Yes, it was. Down and away right there. Tough one to hit. Tough one to hit right there. Welcome to the big leagues, young man.
Up comes Starlin Castro 0 for 2 with a walk. And a fastball strike for Zipchinski. Just off the dish. Swung out and missed. And a count 1-2. In the dirt. Starlin Castro, just 25 years old, out of the Dominican Republic. He's in his 5th full season with the Cubs. Already a 3-time All-Star. Couldn't get him to chase after it. And it's a full count. Grounded towards short, and Lindor will throw out Castro, 2 down. That will bring up Chris Coghlan. Coghlan is 0 for 3. He's flied out all 3 times in the ballgame. Breaking ball over for a strike. Coghlan in his 2nd year with the Cubs. He was the Rookie of the Year back in 09 with the Marlins. Batted .321. That hit him.
It sure did.
Got him on the elbow.
Right elbow as he was going to swing, but it was in far enough. It caught him. Ouch. Ouch. It just clipped him right on the elbow, and the back elbow. Ooh. That's got to hurt. Get hit.
Chris Denorfia, 1 for 3 on the night. Bounces it to first base. And the ball game is over. The Indians wipe out the Cubs here by a final score of 6-0. Trevor Bauer gets his 6th win of the year as he went 7 shutout innings. And the Indians rolled behind the 3-run homer by Carlos Santana in the 3rd inning. He also drove in a run in the 9th with an RBI double. Michael Brantley had an RBI and a run scored. Jason Kipnis scored 3 runs. Francisco Lindor, in his first major league start, drove in a run, the first of his career, stole his first base, and he also added a run scored in that 9th inning. So the Indians will head home to take on the Cubs for a 2-game set at Progressive Field.
Well, overall, good game. You know, you end up going 2-2 on this 5-game road trip. 1 rained out. Now you head home, and hopefully we can play better there. It's tribe time now. You got it, baby.
Indians are 30-33 on the year. Cubs go to 34-28. They'll meet tomorrow night at Progressive Field. That's going to wrap things up for Rick Manning and Andre Knott. I'm Matt Underwood. Stay tuned for Indians Live. Andre Knott's going to go one-on-one with Francisco Lindor when we come back.